Let's talk about simul-rappelling. One of the sketchiest things you can do. So here's the thing. There was a period maybe 20-ish years ago where the concept of simul-rappelling became really popular. So simul-rappelling is essentially running the rope through an anchor. You have a repeller on one side of the rope and you have a repeller on the other side of the rope. And more or less they're weighting the anchor at the same time and rappelling down a face. In theory, it seems faster. But in practice, what we've seen is that this radically increases the hazard. So why is this more dangerous? Well, the primary thing is that when people employ this tactic, they are primarily employing the tactic when they're trying to go fast. So we have time pressure built on top of a technique that is rarely used. The result is that mistakes are more common. So when you're racing against the dark and you're trying to go faster, that's where you're most likely to make mistakes. I remember somebody telling me, like, I didn't put on my auto block that day because I was in a rush. Well, you should always use an auto block, regardless of what kind of rappelling you're doing. This individual didn't put on an auto block because he was in a rush. That's the time when you're most likely to make a mistake. Now you take a technique like simul-rappelling where there's a lot of issues that can create hazard, and you rush those things, and that's where accidents take place. So what are some things that create accidents here? Well, the most common thing is that the two people rappelling are not necessarily together. One person gets to a ledge, clips into an anchor, unclips from the system. Because they're in a rush, they unclip from the system and they've more or less unclipped the anchor for the other person, and the other person falls. In some cases, no knots at the end of the rope. Something happens, one person lets go, something slips, and the rope just slips out of the other person's device. One person falls to the ground. But even if there are knots in the end of the rope, tremendous amount of slippage in the system could lead to serious injury or death. You can clip each other together, you can have auto blocks on both sides, but even if one person stands up on a ledge, that can cause a quick shift in the entire system and result in injury. You also put twice the force on the anchor. There's just a lot that can go wrong. And what we've found is that using extensions and having both people clip into a system at the same time increases your speed for rappelling and allows you to check one another and decreases the likelihood of an accident. This concept of simul-rappelling is not being used by guides, not by professional guides. You will really not find professional guides pitching this as a way to do things. In fact, the American Mountain Guides Association technical director has more or less said, don't teach this. It's too dangerous. High-end alpinists are not doing this anymore. It's too dangerous. I would say just don't do it, don't teach it, don't try it, don't play with it. When you want to use it is when it's the most dangerous. Learn other tricks. Watch some of my other videos. I've got a million tricks in this thread. Be careful.